What if your existence was defined entirely by what you could not see? What if your skin was too thin, your teeth too blunt, and your speed a mere fraction of those who hunted you? Can you imagine a world where the rising sun is not a symbol of hope, but the start of a countdown against your own extinction? Why do we assume we were always the masters of this earth when every fiber of our ancestral biology screams otherwise? Is it possible that our greatest strength was born not from dominance, but from an absolute paralyzing vulnerability? You wake up before the light has even touched the horizon of the East African rift, but you do not wake up to silence. The silence here is a lie, a predator's mask. You are lying on a bed of cold, compacted earth and dry acacia thorns. Your muscles stiff from a night spent in a state of hypervigilance that modern sleep can no longer replicate. The air is thin, biting, and carries the scent of damp dust and the metallic tang of old blood from a kill made a mile away. You are not a king. You are an anomaly, a soft-skinned creature in a landscape of scales, fur, and bone-crushing jaws. Your first movement is not a stretch, but a freezing of the breath. You listen. You listen to the rhythmic grinding of insects, the distant low-frequency vibration of a feline's territorial call, and the rustle of tall yellow grass that sounds too rhythmic to be the wind. In this dawn, your ears are your only eyes. You feel the grit of the volcanic soil against your palms as you push yourself up, noticing how painfully slow your reflexes feel compared to the twitching intensity of the world around you. You have no claws to dig into the earth, no thick coat to protect you from the morning chill, and no venom to level the playing field. You are a vertical target in a horizontal world. The blue-gray light begins to bleed into the sky, revealing the silhouettes of the fever trees, their twisted branches looking like reaching hands. You realize that your survival depends on a precarious balance of observation and timing. Every step you take toward the watering hole is a gamble with a high house edge. The grass is damp with dew that clings to your ankles, a sensory coldness that anchors you to the immediate present. There is a specific density to the air right now, a heavy, expectant pressure that signals the transition of hunters. The nocturnal killers are retreating, but the daylight specialists are just beginning to sharpen their focus. You see a movement to your left, a flicker of tawny gold that vanishes before your brain can categorize it. Your heart hammers against your ribs, not as a metaphor, but as a physical weight. A drum signaling a frantic biological desire to remain among the living. This is the raw reality of the first humans, a life where the environment does not provide, but tolerates your presence under strict conditions. You look at your hands, calloused and stained with the pigments of the earth, and you realize they are your only tools, yet they feel so fragile against the crushing power of the savannah. You are part of a small, breathing collective, a huddle of shadows trying to decipher the language of the wilderness before the sun reaches its zenith. This fragile continuity, this thin thread of life that connects you to the dawn of time, is exactly what we explore here every single day. Confira se já é inscrito neste canal, porque entender a nossa origem é a única forma de suportar o peso do nosso futuro, e você não pode correr o risco de perder a próxima peça deste quebra-cabeça ancestral que moldou quem você é hoje. The light is now a pale gold, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, but the beauty of the scene is a luxury you cannot afford to indulge in. You notice the way the birds have gone silent in a specific patch of scrub, a negative space in the soundscape that warns you of a hidden presence. This is the structural functionalism of fear. It is not an emotion, but a diagnostic tool for survival. You move with a deliberate, slow grace, mimicking the stillness of the landscape to avoid drawing the gaze of the apex predators that own the horizon. Your skin is a map of every scratch and insect bite, a sensory record of your total exposure to the elements. There is no wall between you and the leopard, no distance between your throat and the dry grass where the snakes lie in wait. You are navigating a world of absolute consequences, where a single misstep, a snapped twig, or a sneeze could end a lineage millions of years in the making. The morning wind begins to rise, carrying the scent of wild sage and the musk of 1,000 herbivores moving in unison. You are among them, yet distinct, a creature starting to rely on a different kind of perception, a strategic mapping of the terrain that goes beyond mere instinct. You are learning to read the shadows, to interpret the flight of the vulture, and to understand that the stability of your group is the only thing standing between you and the void. As the sun finally clears the edge of the world, casting long, distorted shadows across the plains, the true scale of your isolation becomes clear. You are small, you are slow, and you are being watched. The day has officially begun, and the hunt is already underway, placing you at the center of a lethal theater where you are both the spectator and the potential prize. You feel the heat begin to radiate from the ground, a subtle shift in temperature that signals the end of the morning's grace period. The transition is seamless and unforgiving, a reminder that in this place there are no pauses, only shifts in the method of survival. Your lungs fill with the dry, toasted aroma of the waking savanna, a smell that will forever be burned into the collective memory of your species. You are here, you are breathing, and for this moment, the predators have chosen another target, but the sun is climbing, and the true test of your endurance is only just beginning to manifest in the shimmering heat of the distance. By mid-morning, the grace of the dawn has been incinerated by a sun that does not merely shine but colonizes the atmosphere. You feel the verticality of your own skeleton as a defiant, albeit exhausting, architectural choice. To stand upright in this basin of fire is to expose less of your surface area to the direct radiation from above, yet it forces your heart to pump against the relentless pull of gravity to reach a brain that is rapidly overheating. The ground beneath your feet has transformed into a searing plate of basalt and baked clay, sending waves of shimmering distortion upward that make the horizon look like a liquid dream. You are walking through a sea of heat, your vision tunneling as the salt from your own sweat begins to sting your eyes. This is the mechanical brilliance of your primate body, a cooling system that no leopard or hyena can match. While they must retreat to the deep shade of the Kigelia trees to pant and conserve their internal fluids, you are the only creature capable of persistent motion under the meridian glare. Your skin is slick, a thin film of moisture evaporating to pull heat away from your core, a biological trade-off that demands a constant, desperate replenishment of water. Every step is a calculated expenditure of energy. You move with a rhythmic, swaying gait, your eyes scanning the ground not just for threats, but for the subtle signs of underground tubers or the damp patches of sand that might hide a trickle of life-sustaining moisture. The sound of your own breathing is loud, a rhythmic rasp that harmonizes with the dry clatter of the grasshoppers. You reach a dry riverbed, a fractured vein in the landscape where the sand is blindingly white. Here, the silence is heavy, a physical weight that presses against your eardrums. You know that beneath this scorched surface, the memory of water remains. You begin to dig with your bare fingers, feeling the coarse grit tear at your cuticles, the heat of the upper layer giving way to a surprising, heart-stopping coolness just a few inches down. It is a slow, agonizing process. Your thirst is a living thing, a jagged stone in your throat that makes swallowing an act of will. As you dig, you are exposed. Your back is turned to the scrub, your posture hunched, and your focus narrowed to a few square inches of damp earth. This is the structural fragility of the hunt for resources. To sustain life, you must risk losing it. The air around you vibrates with the frantic buzzing of flies attracted to your moisture, their iridescent bodies a mockery of your heavy, grounded struggle. You find a small, muddy pool at the bottom of your hole, and as you bring the gritty, metallic-tasting water to your lips, you realize that this liquid is more than just hydration. It is the fuel for the most advanced endurance engine the world has ever seen. You are outlasting the predators through sheer thermal regulation. A slow-motion victory that feels like a defeat in the moment of its execution. The contrast is absolute. The stillness of the shaded hunters versus your own agonizing, persistent movement. You are a nomad of the noon, a ghost haunting the brightest hours of the day because the darkness belongs to those with better eyes and sharper teeth. The thermal pressure is so intense that you can feel the pulse in your temples, a drumbeat of survival that echoes the ancient rhythm of the rift. You look back at the distance you have covered and realize that you have moved through a zone of death where no other mammal of your size would dare to tread. This persistence is the foundation of everything we have become, the stubborn refusal to stop when the world demands that we hide. If you can feel the weight of this ancestral struggle in your own bones right now, I want you to stop and leave a comment with the words, "My blood remembers the thirst of the first dawn." This is not just a sentence, it is an acknowledgement of the endurance that flows through your veins. A tribute to the ancestors who did not stop walking so that you could be here today. The sun reaches its absolute peak and the shadows disappear entirely, leaving you standing in a world without depth. The landscape is a flat, blinding yellow, and the only thing that is real is the heat and the distance to the next patch of shade. You find a lone baobab, its trunk like the wrinkled skin of an ancient elephant, and you lean against its rough, cool bark for a moment of respite. The texture is a grounding reality against the ethereal shimmer of the plains. You observe a group of zebras in the distance, their stripes blurring in the heat haze, and you understand the functional camouflage of the savanna. Everything here is designed to hide or to endure. Your upright posture allows you to see over the tall stalks of ryegrass, giving you a panoramic perspective that is your greatest tactical advantage. You see a dust cloud on the horizon, signaling a herd of wildebeest on the move, and you begin to plan your next trajectory. The meridian heat has tested your resolve, stripping away everything but the core necessity of movement. Your muscles ache with a dull, persistent throb, and the skin on your shoulders feels tight and angry. But you are still standing. You are the master of the long game, the creature that wins by not dying in the first hour of the fire. The transition into the late afternoon begins not with a drop in temperature, but with a subtle lengthening of the light, a golden hue that softens the edges of the volcanic rocks. You prepare yourself for the next phase of the cycle, knowing that the relative safety of the heat is fading and the era of the shadow is about to return. Your survival is a matter of layering these small victories, 1 cup of muddy water and 1 mile of scorched earth at a time, building a bridge of persistence toward a night you are not yet prepared to face. The savannah is a laboratory of stress, and you are the primary subject, evolving in real time under the gaze of a sun that knows no mercy and a landscape that offers no apologies for its brutality. The sun begins its slow, heavy descent, stretching the shadows of the acacia trees into long, distorted fingers that grasp at the cooling earth. This is the hour of the architecture of shadows, a time when the world loses its blinding clarity and becomes a complex map of silhouettes and hidden intentions. You find yourself standing at the edge of a dry ravine, your eyes adjusted to the amber hue of the late afternoon, scanning the ground for the subtle language of the savannah. To survive now is to be a master of semiotics. A bent blade of grass is a sentence, a shallow depression in the dust is a warning, and the frantic flight of a blue jay is a high-pitched scream of alarm. You are no longer just a body moving through space. You are an interpreter of tracks, You crouch low, the heat still radiating from the rocks beneath your calloused feet, and notice the heavy, rhythmic indentations of a large predator that passed this way less than an hour ago. The edges of the paw prints are still sharp, the sand hasn't yet crumbled back into the center, and you feel a chill that has nothing to do with the fading temperature. You are sharing this corridor of scrub with a ghost of the tall grass. Your heart rate slows into a steady, rhythmic thrum as you focus on the task at hand, scavenging. In the distance, the sky is punctured by the spiraling, chaotic flight of vultures, their wide wings catching the thermal updrafts. They are the sentinels of death, and they are your guides. You move toward them, not with the arrogance of a hunter, but with the calculated stealth of a thief. Every rustle of your movement is a risk, every snap twig a potential death sentence. As you approach the site of a kill made earlier by a pride of lions, the air becomes thick with a heavy, sweet scent of decay and the copper tang of drying blood. The lions have moved into the shade to digest, but they are still there, golden eyes watching from the thicket, measuring your desperation against their own lethality. You reach the remains of a wildebeest, a carcass already stripped of its prime meat. Your tools are not part of your body. They are extensions of your will. You reach for a basalt stone, heavy and cold, and a sharp flake of flint you've carried for miles. With a rhythmic, precise motion, you begin to strike the long bones, the sound of stone on bone echoing like a primal heartbeat in the quiet of the afternoon. This is the mechanical breakthrough of your species, the ability to access the marrow, the densest, most nutritious substance in the wilderness, hidden deep inside a fortress of calcium that no teeth can breach. You work with a frantic efficiency, your ears tuned to the low growls vibrating in the nearby bushes. You are a peripheral participant in a violent economy, taking what the masters of the plains have left behind. The marrow is rich, fatty, and provides the caloric density your growing brain requires to maintain its complex functions. As you scrape the last of the protein from the bone, you feel the weight of 1,000 eyes upon you. The vultures have landed, their bald heads twitching, waiting for you to finish your grim work so they can claim the scraps of your scraps. There is a profound structural humility in this moment. You are eating the remnants of a tragedy, fueled by the death of another, under the watchful gaze of those who would gladly make a meal of you. The light is turning a deep, bruised purple, and the golden hour is ending. The contrast between your physical weakness and your technological ingenuity has never been more apparent. You're using the very earth to break open the secrets of life. If you can feel the tension of this silent standoff and the raw power of our ancestors' persistence, take a moment to leave a like on this video right now. Your like is more than just a gesture. It is a pulse of support that ensures these stories of human resilience continue to be told with the depth and intensity they deserve. The wind shifts, bringing the scent of the lions closer, a musky, heavy odor that triggers an ancient, reflexive tightness in your chest. You gather what you can, your hands stained with the dark, drying essence of the savannah, and begin to back away slowly. You do not turn your back on the shadows. You move with a deliberate backwards grace, maintaining eye contact with the void where you know the predators are lurking. The architecture of the landscape is changing again. The trees are becoming indistinguishable from the sky, and the safety of the daylight is an evaporating memory. You notice how the insects have changed their pitch, a frantic, high-frequency buzzing that signals the onset of the nocturnal shift. Your legs are tired, the muscles trembling from hours of crouched movement and the high-tension alertness of the scavenge. Yet, there is a strange, visceral satisfaction in the weight of the marrow in your stomach and the sharp flint in your hand. You have navigated the most dangerous hour of the day by reading the environment better than your competitors. You have turned a pile of bones into a tactical advantage. The ground is cooling rapidly now, the heat of the sun being swallowed by the vast open sky. You find a small outcropping of rock, a natural fortress that offers a slight elevation above the killing floor of the grass. As you climb, you feel the texture of the lichen and the cold grit of the stone. Sensory anchors in a world that is becoming increasingly abstract. You are preparing for the transition into a state of total sensory deprivation, where the eyes lose their power and the ears become the primary guardians of your life. The vultures are settling into the trees, their silhouettes like dark, heavy fruit against the darkening horizon. The day's struggle for calories is over, but the night's struggle for breath is about to begin. You look out over the vast, darkening rift, realizing that every shadow now holds a potential ending, and every sound is a question you must answer correctly to see the next dawn. The silence of the afternoon has been replaced by the low-frequency hum of the coming night, a heavy, expectant atmosphere that marks the end of the architecture of shadows and the beginning of the reign of the unseen. You are a small, breathing point of light in a descending ocean of darkness, holding on to your tools as if they were the only reality left in a world that is rapidly dissolving into the primordial black. The sky over the Rift Valley does not simply darken, it hemorrhages. The vibrant gold of the afternoon collapses into a bruised spectrum of violet, indigo, and a deep, terrifying crimson that seems to stain the very air you breathe. This is the moment of the great inversion. The landscape that you navigated with such visual precision just an hour ago is dissolving, losing its edges and its safety. The sun, your only true ally against the cold and the blind, has abandoned the horizon, and with its departure, the hierarchy of the savannah is violently overturned. You feel a primal electric surge of cortisol flooding your system, a biological siren warning you that your window of dominance has closed. In the light, you were the observer, the toolmaker, the persistent walker. In the dark, you are merely a collection of soft tissues and warm blood, a thermal signature in a world of infrared specialists. You begin the ascent. Your hands, still caked with the dried marrow and dust of the day, reach for the rough, corky bark of a mature fever tree. This is not a casual climb. It is a desperate migration from the horizontal plane of death to the vertical sanctuary of the canopy. You feel the muscles in your forearms burn as you pull your weight upward, every crackle of a dry leaf beneath your feet sounding like a gunshot in the thickening gloom. The bark is cold now, a sharp contrast to the baking heat of the stones you handled at noon. As you find a fork in the branches, high enough to be beyond the reach of a leaping hyena, but thin enough to discourage a heavy lion, you wedge your body into the structural embrace of the wood. You are not alone. Your small group is scattered among the nearby trees, a constellation of breathing shadows hidden in the leaves. Now, the visual world is gone. The darkness is so total, so primordial, that it feels like a physical substance pressing against your open eyes. You blink, but there is no difference between the world behind your lids and the world in front of them. In this sensory vacuum, your hearing undergoes a forced evolution. Your ears become your only functional eyes, mapping the environment through a terrifying tapestry of sound. You hear the rhythmic sawing grunt of a leopard patrolling the base of your tree, a sound so low it vibrates in your very teeth. You hear the frantic, wet snapping of branches as a herd of impala bolts through the undergrowth, pursued by something you can only imagine. Every sound is a data point in a geometry of survival. The rustle of a snake through the canopy above you, the distant demonic laugh of a hyena, the sudden, sharp silence that signals the approach of an apex killer. You are living in the negative space of the world. Your sense of touch is heightened to a painful degree. You feel the slight sway of the branch in the night wind, the texture of the lichen against your cheek, and the frantic, tiny pulse of a beetle crawling across your hand. The air has turned biting and thin, carrying the scent of damp earth and the musk of 1,000 hidden lives. You realize that your entire existence is now reduced to the act of remaining still and remaining silent. To cough, to shift your weight too suddenly, or to let out a sigh of exhaustion is to announce your coordinates to the night. This is the ultimate test of your structural discipline. The contrast between the activity of the day and the absolute paralysis of the night is the foundational paradox of the human journey. We are creatures of the sun, forced to endure the reign of the moon. If this descent into the primordial dark has made you feel the fragility of our collective past, consider that someone you know needs to remember this strength too. Compartilhe este vídeo com uma pessoa que valoriza a profundidade da nossa história e ajude a espalhar a consciência de que nossa sobrevivência nunca foi garantida, mas conquistada através do silêncio e da resiliência nas horas mais sombrias. You wrap your arms around the trunk, feeling the slow, rhythmic expansion of your own lungs. You are a ghost in the machine of the savannah, a witness to a symphony of violence that you can hear but never see. The darkness is a laboratory of imagination. Your mind begins to fill the void with shapes, turning the shadows of the leaves into the reaching claws of monsters. This is where our first myths were born, in the terror of the unseen and the desperate need to explain the sounds of the night. You feel the moisture of the evening dew beginning to settle on your skin, a cold, clingy film that saps your body heat. You are shivering, not just from the cold, but from the sheer psychic weight of being a prey animal in a world of perfect hunters. The hours pass with an agonizing slowness, measured only by the changing pitch of the wind and the occasional blood-chilling scream of a kill being made in the tall grass below. You are a passenger on a planet that has turned its back on you. Yet, even in this state of total vulnerability, there's a core of defiance. You are still breathing. You have navigated the heat, the thirst and the scavenge, and now you are navigating the void. Your ears continue to scan the darkness, filtering the white noise of the insects to find the specific frequency of danger. This structural adaptation, this ability to transform fear into a diagnostic tool, is what will eventually lead your descendants to tame the very darkness that now threatens to swallow you. The descent into the dark is not a defeat. It is a tactical retreat, a necessary pause in the relentless cycle of the rift. You wait for the first hint of grey on the horizon, for the moment when the hierarchy will flip once more, and you can reclaim your status as a creature of the light. Until then, you are nothing but a heartbeat in the wood, a silent observer of a world that does not know you exist, praying that the branch holds and the wind does not betray your scent to the hungry shadows circling the roots of your sanctuary. The night is a long, cold lesson in humility, a reminder that before we were masters of the earth, we were the trembling children of the trees, holding our breath in the face of an infinite and unforgiving blackness that promised nothing but the end of our name. You hold on tighter, the wood biting into your skin, and you listen for the dawn. The first cracks of light appear not in the sky, but in your own perception of the horizon. As the indigo veil of the savannah begins to fray at the edges, revealing a sliver of pale, dusty amber, you realize that you have survived the most dangerous night of your life. But as you descend from the fever tree, your hands shaking with the residual cold and the release of adrenaline, you are not the same creature that climbed up into the canopy. Something has shifted in the architecture of your mind. The concrete struggle for marrow and water has transmuted into a symbolic realization of existence. You look at the dying embers of a lightning-struck stump in the distance, a natural phenomenon that your kind is just beginning to understand, and you see more than heat. You see the possibility of an end to the dark. This is the moment where the physical reality of the East African Rift begins its long, slow transition into the philosophical foundation of the human spirit. The fear that kept you paralyzed in the branches is not a ghost to be exorcised, but a legacy to be honored. It is the architect of our caution, the sculptor of our communities, and the reason your heart still beats faster when you hear a floorboard creak in a modern house thousands of years later. We are the children of those who were afraid enough to survive. Every anxiety you feel today, every pulse of social fear or environmental dread, is a distorted echo of that first morning when you stood on the cooling volcanic soil and realized you were small, weak, and utterly alone. Yet, in that realization lay the seed of our transcendence. We did not develop claws. We developed empathy. We did not grow thick fur. We built fires and wove stories. The structural functionalism of the savannah taught us that isolation is death and that the group is the only fortress that truly holds. As the sun climbs higher, illuminating the vast, indifferent beauty of the plains, you understand that the threat of predators was the very thing that forced us to become something greater than just another primate. It was the pressure that turned the carbon of our animal instincts into the diamond of human consciousness. You feel the warmth of the sun hitting your chest, and for the first time, it feels like an inheritance. This landscape, with its lethal beauty and its unforgiving rhythms, is the womb of our species. The legacy of fear is not a burden of cowardice, but a blueprint of resilience. We are here because they did not give up when the night felt infinite. We are here because they learned to read the shadows and turn the stone against the bone. This journey through 24 hours of ancestral life is a mirror held up to our own frantic modern lives, reminding us that beneath the concrete and the digital glow, we are still breathing in sync with the rhythm of the rift. We are still the walkers of the noon and the watchers of the dawn. If you have traveled this far through time with me, if you can feel the dust of the savannah on your skin and the weight of our shared history in your soul, then the journey is only just beginning. Confira se já é inscrito neste canal para continuar explorando os mistérios que nos tornam humanos e para nunca perder a conexão com as raízes que sustentam o nosso presente. Se você assistiu até aqui é porque gostou desse caso. Deixe um comentário dizendo: eu assisti até aqui para que eu possa te conhecer e saber quem realmente gosta das histórias aqui do canal. Deixe sua curtida como um sinal de que a persistência dos nossos antepassados ainda ressoa em você. E compartilhe este vídeo com aqueles que precisam lembrar que somos feitos de coragem extraída do medo mais puro. The sun is now fully risen, a great blinding eye that watches over the new world. The predators have retreated into the golden grass. The vultures are circling the remnants of the night's violence, and you are standing upright, walking toward a future that was never guaranteed. The savannah is silent once more, but the silence is no longer a threat. It is a canvas. You take a breath of the dry, toasted air, feeling the expansion of your lungs and the strength in your stride. The world is wide. The dangers are many, but you have the stone in your hand and the memory of the fire in your mind. This is your life. This is your legacy. And the day is yours to claim before the shadows return, to test your spirit once again. You move forward, not as a victim of the environment, but as its most observant student, carrying the hard-won wisdom of the first dawn into the infinite possibilities of the afternoon. The tall grass bows as you pass, a silent acknowledgement of the creature that refused to disappear. Your footsteps leave shallow marks in the red earth, tiny monuments to a journey that has spanned millions of years, and yet is only just reaching its most complex chapter. The predators may own the night, and the sun may own the day, but we own the story that connects them both. As the wind picks up, carrying the scent of rain from a distant mountain range, you look toward the horizon with a gaze that is no longer just looking for threats, but looking for meaning. The transition is complete. The animal has become the ancestor, and the ancestor has become you. The cycle of the savannah continues, indifferent and magnificent, but you carry within you the light of 1,000 survived nights, a fire that no darkness can ever truly extinguish. Walk on, child of the rift, for the path you carve today is the road that all who come after you will follow, guided by the same stars and the same ancient, pulsing heart that refused to stop in the dark. Your story is the story of the earth itself, written in sweat, bone, and the unbreakable will to see the sun rise one more time. The horizon is calling, and the first humans are finally ready to answer.